everybody, and welcome to a special bite-sized episode of Podouken. This is the podcast where we take a deep dive into the world of video arcade games and discuss the history, the story, the strategy, the art, the music, the fun, and for this one episode, the spooky. So if you like what you hear, be sure to listen to more Podouken on your favorite podcast listening service or at lasertimepodcast.com. And in this special Halloween episode treat, we are going to briefly discuss the scariest arcade games to ever steal the quarters and souls of the younglings who played it. My name is Rob, and my companions on this fateful trip to the haunted arcade are...
Jared?
It's Mr. SNK. Don't beat around the bush. It's Mr. SNK. And this is Past Plaster.
So guys, welcome. Halloween's just around the corner.
Can't wait.
Felt like a very good opportunity to talk about the spooky or sudden surprises that any arcade games had on you. Do you have any experiences where something just kind of shocked you all of a sudden? Or
Oh yeah. So I'm assuming I'm not alone in this one, but the first time that I ever saw, I want to say it was Mortal Kombat. I want to say maybe Mortal Kombat 2 I saw first in arcades. I can't remember. I know for sure I saw Mortal Kombat 2 like when it first came out in arcades as a kid. But there was something magical and disturbing about seeing a fatality done in real life. Like, I don't know why it was different, but like seeing kids no, I guess it was Mortal Kombat 1 because he uppercutted his head off. I think that was like the big one in Mortal Kombat 1. I think it was Sub-Zero getting his head literally uppercutted off, like in real life. Like the sound and kind of just like the hype of the arcade was amazing. And that was the first time I was like, wow, like this is insane. I'm not supposed to look at this, right? I actually remember looking around to see if my parents saw me see it or if there were like adults around me or something like that. And there wasn't, but that for sure was the first thing that ever kind of like caught me off guard.
Fatality.
Besides like, graphically being impressive and things like that, just like, whoa, like I was not expecting that.
Yeah, and the digitized like real people.
Yeah, I mean
of the graphics.
Yeah, I mean it looked like a real doing air
for
quotes
the time.
Here.
Yeah,
ninja got his head uppercutted off. It's like a straight up like Rambo move in a video game. It was pretty awesome.
did you for a second think that was how anatomy worked? Like you could really just walk up to somebody and just give them an uppercut and pop their head off, rock'em sock'em robot style?
That's the thing that always kind of bothered me about like people that never really have played those games but attack those games. Like even as a kid, I'm like it looked real in the sense of like the people looked like people, but like it never connected to me that, oh, this is actually someone's head getting knocked off. Like it never made me want to actually like uppercut.
It was still fantasy violence.
Yeah, like, and then they really ramped it up when you have like 18 femurs and skulls in Mortal Kombat 2. Like,
don't you know we're all just a big bag of bones?
Apparently. But no, I mean like it wasn't like, I wasn't like scared like a horror movie had that effect on you as a kid, like Nightmare on Elm Street. But I was just like, wow, like what is going on? Like I wasn't expecting to see that. But that for sure was the first thing ever. And like I've played, shooting games where you see people like blood flies out of them and stuff like that in the arcades. But that was the one that really kind of like caught me off guard for the first time.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, especially if you didn't know that was possible, that game, you couldn't actually perform that move in that game because before that it was just, oh, you beat them up and they fall down, or they go to their knees and take a breather.
Well, I remember, like, I'm pretty sure when Scorpion's spear hits you, blood comes out a little bit. And, like, so I knew there was blood and stuff in the game. I didn't know that you murdered each other at the end or could murder. Because most of the kids back then, I didn't have the internet back then. They couldn't do fatalities. You'd fall over at the end. The first time I saw a fatality come out was, like, amazing.
Yeah, and I can't remember, wasn't one of the stages you could just do the uppercut and it would hit him into the pit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember seeing that the first, and that was...
See, I remember him getting his... I mean, I'm not saying that you didn't, but like the first one I ever saw was his head literally getting like punched off.
Yeah.
It was, or like maybe grabbed it and ripped it out. I can't remember. It was something like that where like...
Well, Scorpion had the spine rip out, right?
Yeah, I thought I could have sworn like someone uppercutted his
out.
head out and like the spine came out with her. Maybe just like the head came off. It was something like that. But yeah, that for sure.
Like a Pez dispenser.
I remember the bodies being impaled by spikes, and that was pretty hardcore for sure.
Great game.
Yeah.
So Jared, do you have any spooky arcade memories?
So we were kind of thinking about this before. I do remember thinking about what Adam was saying. I do remember Splatterhouse the first time I played that, and I can't remember if it was in the actual arcade or on a MAME or something like that. And it actually did surprise me, which maybe it shouldn't have, but I think for being a late 80s game, it kind of surprised me for the gore level that they did.
It's a gory game.
Yeah. So that I do remember being kind of like, whoa, like it's
still one of my favorite shotguns in any video game ever.
than I thought it was going to be or should be for the time.
I just like that the maker of that was also the maker of Pac-Man and
Yeah.
Galaxian and Galaga.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the evolution of things. You do Pac-Man, you do Space Wars, and then you do murder. Like,
exactly.
Well, was Pac-Man the first spooky game
I mean, it's
by
maybe,
definition?
maybe the first. Well,
I mean, you got the
Ghost
Ghosts,
Race,
right?
or you have Death Race. came out,
yeah,
right?
but Death Race was just a racing game that they.
But the marquee is scary.
but
It
they
has
put
skeletons
the
on-
Reaper
right.
on
Yes.
the art. It didn't really have
No, it's-
anything to do with.
It's like Atari football with like
Right.
cool art on it.
Weren't you running? Weren't there people to run over? In
Yeah,
that
that
though?
was.
So,
It was.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
It was like Death Race,
people,
the movie.
quote, people, but yeah,
Yeah, little stick figures you chased around and
Yeah.
got points for running over 'em.
I want that game, but every time I see one, it never works.
yeah.
I've seen like 2 or 3 at a show, and they never work.
I've seen
never
the
got to
same
play
ones.
one.
I've seen the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
ones you've seen, and
I've never got to
played
play
it one time.
Never got to play it.
Got to get there on the first day. Of the
Yeah, I
con.
know. Get to meet the guy
First 5
while he's
plays.
unloading it off of his truck.
I want to play that exactly. Speaking of the ghosts in Pac-Man, we were decorating for Halloween. The kids were drawing ghosts, and I was proud to see that their representation of what they thought a ghost was like was basically
Now
a
that's good
Pac-Man
parenting.
ghost. So
Now,
Yeah.
colored ghost or blue ghost?
no, they were just drawing like outlines of ghosts and
All
cutting them out of pieces of paper and
No
stuff
Patrick
like that.
Swayze.
So, no,
Oh.
no ghosts like that. But they did have the little ridge on the bottom,
Yeah,
like
okay.
Pac-Man. My son went for the bleeding eyes too.
Oh,
though. So
nice.
Okay.
he did
I'll
add
never
a
go into your
little-
house again. Gotcha.
So a
did
little
add
bit
a little
of
to it, so-
Pac-Man meets the Ring.
Yeah, or meets
Is that the son-
Pac-Man meets Splatterhouse.
There you go.
So,
Is that the one that last time I was at your house? He's like, "Hey, check out my new toy," and tried to burn me with his little light pen.
probably? Yeah.
And like I didn't know what was going on at first. So he's like, "Hey, check this out." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. It's like a thing that like you like it flashes light and you like draw on it." And he comes over to me.
yeah.
And he's like a little kid. And he puts the thing on my leg. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." I'm like, "Ow! Like, what's going on?" It's burning me.
Yeah, it's yeah. That wasn't him, but
Okay.
yes, that was actually the youngest. doing
Gotcha,
that, so
That's
yeah.
defamation.
Yeah. The other thing we talked about was not a game per se, but I did have a scary for me arcade experience. I was hanging out with my aunt and uncle. We were in Central Florida, and they were doing a bowling league, I believe. And so, of course,
the bowling alley arcade.
Yes. So we were pushed over to the arcade there. And I think my cousin at the time was there, and he was a little older than me. I was probably in 5th or 6th grade, and I was more interested in the arcade stuff than he was. So I think he went off to do whatever. And I was hanging out there. Remember distinctly playing Williams' pitch and back game that they had at the time that dispensed.
Is that Slugfest?
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
Slugfest, it
The
dispensed
cards.
cards,
Yeah.
baseball
Baseball cards,
cards.
yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. And you got a prize for playing and you got a little bonus. I remember hanging out there and some older kids, 16, 17, whatever, came over and they were like giving me a hard time and like harassing me. They were talking about how my sneakers were nice and how they wanted my sneakers. And I thought they were going to, mug me for my sneakers at that point. So I had
See,
to.
this is the bowling alley gang.
Yes.
So they're just used to
apparently.
bowling shoes. They never see anything else. So
Maybe.
this
So
is
quick question, because I'm doing some math here in my head. 5th or 6th grade, how old are you? You're like 11 or 12, right?
Yeah,
fifth or
probably,
sixth.
right?
You're
So,
probably 10.
Were you either a gigantic 5th grader or were they very tiny high schoolers? Because like your feet shouldn't be nearly the same size, right?
That's true. I mean, I don't really know. I didn't think that far through it. I don't know.
I would love to see like
I mean, like I'm in a size
A 17-year-old
11.5 or
kid.
12 now.
Hey man,
so-
I like
4
those.
foot tall.
I like those 5 T's.
Well, it wasn't.
sweet
I
Velcro,
did-
bro.
No, I mean, I did.
Were they the
have-
ones that when you walk they light up and like do shit?
No, no,
That
no,
was-
no.
that was
I mean,
before the
these
days
were
of that.
actual like Reeboks or
Were
something
these
that
pumps?
I had.
Wait, were
so
these pumps?
I
If
didn't
they're-
have a
if
set
they're
of pumps,
pumps, I
but they
get it.
were not at this time.
I
But
had
they
pumps,
were. I did
and-
have a set of pumps. That's a whole nother story that I could get into that was ridiculous at the time. But I can still picture my pumps. But no, they were name brand. They were like Adidas or Reebok or whatever. So they were a nicer shoe, I guess, in the realm of shoe stealing.
That's pretty funny.
Maybe
I
they
don't know.
wanted to get it for
So-
their children.
So for me at the time,
This is a
maybe
memento from
It's like-
the
no, they weren't that old.
Apopka bowling alley.
And I didn't
remember.
stop to ask for ID, so I don't know. They could have been, just a few years older
Sure.
than me, but they could have been, whatever. But for
Right.
me, it was scary at the
So did you
time.
keep playing your
And-
game?
So I played. I think I ended up leaving at least some money on the game.
Aw.
See, that was probably the
and that,
strategy.
Yeah.
that could have been the strategy, but
It was probably the kids' version
So-
of.
So what's weird is-
mouth.
When we went to New Orleans recently, that was like a thing that all like the panhandlers kept saying, like, "Oh man, I like your shoes." I'm like, "No, you don't. These are dirty ass Vans. Like, no one likes these
Oh,
shoes.
Vans
I
are
don't
back,
like
man.
them." Not dirty ones.
Yeah,
though.
but Vans
So
are
what
back.
was-
That's the crazy thing.
I guess.
What was their angle?
All I can think was they were like trying to like
Icebreaker.
shine your shoes or something, or like to like
Or compliment you?
or
enough to
or
get
to
you
like to like steal your wallet or something. I don't know what it was, man. But like we were down by the Mississippi Rivers, like walking around, and like literally every 20 feet, hey man, nice shoes. I'm like, nah, and just kept walking.
Maybe those people were one and the same, and they're now
Hey, man.
grown up and become
I think
homeless
that's-
people in New Orleans.
That's just the icebreaker. That's to get them talking. And
I
then,
guess, man.
Then comes the hook.
Yeah.
Well, I like to think they're one and the same, and these kids got their comeuppance, and they're still just haggling people for shoes.
Looking for shoes in all the wrong places.
So what about you? What was your arcade spookiness?
There's a lot of talk about what are horror arcade games and stuff like that, but I've kind of got two that are kind of like a tie in my mind. One is definitely back in the day when I was a kid and playing Sinistar. And if you remember Sinistar, it's one that has a big booming synthesized voice.
Beware, I live. Run, coward.
And Sinistar just, the first time you play Sinistar, you think it's a pretty basic space shoot 'em up where you're blasting asteroids, kind of like an upgrade to asteroids. And, and then all of a sudden this giant demon face comes flying out of the screen, yelling stuff. And you're like, what the hell was that?
And it is always louder than everything else.
Oh yeah, it's a lot louder. So that was the first one, and I'd say closely tied with it. Even though Wizard of War came out before Sinistar, I never played Wizard of War until I started collecting games.
Kind of an uncommon game, yeah.
And I managed to get one and play it for the first time in my garage after getting it, and didn't know anything about the gameplay. I didn't know that the enemies turned invisible. Didn't know any of that stuff. And so I'm playing at my garage, and all of a sudden there's like weird graphical stuff going out. These enemies are becoming invisible. I'm not sure what's going on. And then a wizard pops up on the screen and booms the loudest quote I've ever heard.
The Wizard of War sends you.
And it was, I can't remember which one it was, because the cool thing about Wizard of War, it was early synthesized speech. It had 71 phrases.
Oh wow, didn't
That's
you
more
could
than
say.
that's more than Teddy Ruxpin, I think.
Well, that's a lot more unless
Yeah.
you replace the tape. So I don't know what it was, but it was an 11 volume easy, and just completely almost made me S my P's because I'm here alone and I was not expecting it.
You don't have to lie to us. You totally asked your P, dude.
I don't think so, but I made a quick run to El Baño there to take care of-
WBH.
So it wasn't so much it was kind of like
children.
weird stuff's going on, and all of a sudden this shocking sudden thing happens. It wasn't I wasn't crying at night. I didn't sleep that night with all the lights on. I'm sure I didn't. But there's a lot of talk about scary games. I don't think a lot of the games that people talk about in the arcade are necessarily scary.
Yeah, I mean, like it's weird. So I definitely think that's more of like a home area. There's been a lot of scary or like, spooky home releases. But when you try to think about arcade stuff, there's definitely horror theme stuff. We talked about this on Video Game Apocalypse. You have things like Darkstalkers and Ghosts and Goblins and stuff like that. But at home, you had Silent Hill and you had PT and you had all these other different things that it's just, I don't know, it's easier to like crank the stereo super loud, get like shut off all the lights, like set yourself in a scary environment. I still need to play Resident Evil 7 with the VR thing. Because like I haven't played the game yet because I wanted to wait and get it on VR. And I got it like, I want to say 2 Black Fridays ago and I've never done it. But it looks terrifying. Like it looks absolutely terrifying.
Well, that's an easier way too. I mean, that or, I remember Resident Evil and sitting down in front of a TV. I mean, generally it's going to be later at night. Everyone else is sleeping type of
Heck
deal.
yeah.
First time I played that game, I was at my cousin's house staying the summer in Tennessee. 2 a.m. when the damn birds busted through the window in that hallway.
Doing the dog. I forget which one it was when the dogs first jumped through the window and
that's right. It was the dog, not the birds.
Yeah. That
freaked me out.
That got me. I think that was the first time I was ever legitimately like gasped at a video game was when those stupid meat dogs jumped through the window. That was terrifying.
But you touched on it before, but the games that traditionally are associated with, gory or scary or horror, Ghosts and Goblins and Chiller and Splatterhouse, those aren't scary games necessarily, not excluding your experience of Splatterhouse, but those are horror games.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like really scary about them. Even I'd say it's not until recently they kind of got into some of the immersive scary games. Like they had that Dark Escape 4D that came out.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever played, like seen one of those in the
theater.
Dave & Buster's
It's like a theater room. Yeah.
And that one like monitors your pulse and like you have to keep your pulse lower, otherwise it increases scares
And
and
it
that kind
scans
of
your
stuff.
face and sends the data to Russia.
Probably, yeah.
Terrifying.
And suddenly you're a new Twitter bot. But so I think they're getting more into that,
Yeah.
where it's becoming more of a thrill environment, a
Yeah.
scare environment. They had the Walking Dead game too, but
Which that game we talked about it, before, but that game is fun. But if you didn't have the crossbow, it wouldn't be fun.
yeah, it's just a peripheral. That
Yeah, it's a rail
really makes it
shooter.
fun.
It's, shoot zombies in the mouth.
And I think when they do that, it's a little easier when they're the big theater type environments where they can get you into the world a little bit better than a bunch of people standing around a upright cabinet, that type of thing. So it was probably always a challenge too on the earlier games. A lot of times you're in there in the day, it's a group of you. So how scary is it going to necessarily be?
Yeah.
On that topic, what is your favorite quote unquote scary game just to play?
House of the Dead 2.
Okay.
Love.
Not Typing of the Dead?
Typing of the Dead's great. I can't type that well, but
Oh,
House
man.
of the Dead 2 is so fun to play. They have one. I didn't realize they have one at a local movie theater. The little the one over by the Gulfview Mall, or not Gulfview, Governor Square. That little theater.
Oh,
they have
the
a House of the Dead
Regal?
2 in there. Yeah.
Yeah, the dying theater in our town.
Yeah. I saw Jay and Silent Bob reboot there. It was pretty okay. But no, they have a House of the Dead 2 in there, and it was amazing. I love
Yeah.
that game.
That's a good game.
Yeah.
Nightmare in the Dark is what it
you
is for
took
me.
mine.
Sorry.
I should have known Mr. SNK would have
Yeah.
taken that one.
Got to go there. It's just a great game. It's if you're not familiar with it, you check it out. It's basically a Snow Brothers.
Yeah, it's
clone.
Bubble Bobble in the graveyard.
Yeah, but you're a gravekeeper or whatever fighting off.
Which, you know what? I always thought that was a witch until very recently.
Oh.
Because it's got the cowl and the big nose coming out and throwing
Yeah, I can
fire.
see
I always
that,
thought it was
yeah.
like a little witch.
Yeah.
And then,
like a warlock or something
yeah,
like that.
but yeah, you're right. It's a grave digger.
Yeah, so it's a great game. Late MVS or late Neo Geo title. That,
Yeah, a year
it's really
before
good
they
too.
closed.
Yeah,
Came
so-
out in 2000 and
Yeah,
they
it's a
closed in
it's kind of
2001.
it's kind of a weird one. The developer was AM Factory. It was their one game. It looks like the people that were a part of that were actually related to a SNK subsidiary of like programmers. So they have some history on programming other games. And
It's
other
weird
stuff
how all
like
these
that.
like
So,
Japanese companies have like rival gangs within themselves. That
Yeah.
like it's just like such a fascinating thing.
yeah, it definitely is.
All right, well, Jared, you stole mine.
Sorry.
Dirty thief. So I'll have to take my backup. I'm going to go with Night Slashers.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
You guys
yeah.
played that one?
We did talk about that one a little bit. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I've seen like video of it, and it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah,
but-
it's basically Final Fight with monsters.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
side-scrolling beat 'em up where you're taking on zombies and all the different Universal monsters, and
Mhm.
it literally is that. So anybody knows me knows I love the side-scrolling beat 'em up. So,
Yep.
and that was a Data East game, one of the few Data East games that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
So I
What? No Windjammers? Windjammers on there?
Windjammer is pretty good.
Yeah.
Captain American Avengers, another good Data East game.
I mean, I could go like Mutation Nation if
Yeah.
we wanted to stretch
Mhm.
out like some
Mutation
zombie
Nation's good,
creatures.
or, King of Monsters, technically, I guess, kind of. They're monsters. I mean,
yeah,
horror-ish.
Godzilla monster.
Oh, it's not.
Halloween stuff.
I like how
King
it's
of
not
Monsters.
Godzilla.
right, but
It's
that,
the other King of Monsters.
So
Yeah.
maybe consider stopping by your local arcade if you have one this Halloween and playing some of your favorite horror related games. There's a ton of great pinball that's horror related. There's a lot of
Yeah.
good arcade games that will kind of put you in the mood this October. And I think that'll wrap up our little mini episode. If you want more Podouken, be sure to search for us, follow us at any of your favorite podcast subscriber outlets. Subscribing to us and leaving any reviews for us helps us immensely, and we greatly appreciate it. Look for our episodes to drop every other Wednesday on lasertimepodcast.com. Anything you guys want to say before we sign off? Anywhere we can follow you?
yeah, CoinOpFL on Twitch. Hopefully, I'll be getting some more content out there.
Yeah. And I stream on Twitch as well. It's Pass Blaster.
All right, everybody, have a great and happy Halloween.
The Laser Dog Blower. Thanks you.